Joe Cortez, a pleasure to have you on my show once again.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure always, buddy. Ivan, you're a good guy. You love the sport. You love the people. That's important.
I love boxing.
I know you do. That's in your DNA, right?
It must be. Because I dream about it every night.
Yeah, DNA for sure.
But Joe Cortez, the last time we spoke was going into the Devin Haney and Vasily Lomachenko fight.
Right.
And you were right. You said that's going to be a good fight. That's going to be a good fight. And it sure was a good fight.
Good. A lot of people thought that Lomachenko won the fight. Very close, very competitive. And that was a learning process for Devin Haney. We just like when Canelo fought Floyd Mayweather, he learned so much from that fight. He lost, but he learned a lot. So that's sometimes a loss sometimes can make you a better fighter. Even on the record, he won the fight against Lomachenko, but I'm sure he learned a lot from it. Makes him a better fighter.
And now everyone wants to see Tank Davis versus Devin Haney.
Well, that'd be a very good fight. It'd be like those fights when Sugar Ray Leonard was fighting Marvin Hagler, when he was fighting Roberto Duran, and Tommy Hearns. It's like those kind of fights. You got 4 good guys out there fighting in that division. You're gonna be good for boxing. You bring boxing back up on the top again.
I was just talking to Ivan Calderon, and I said how boxing is getting back on top now with these type of fights.
Exactly. Well, that's what we need. We fight like that. You like the one that's coming up real soon. The week after next, you got Crawford versus Earl Spence. That's gonna be a good one. Terrence Crawford is a good fighter, one of the best out there. So is Earl Spence. They're both in their prime, and they're both going to show the world that they can beat each other. They're going to be another great fight. And those are the kind of fights we need in boxing, fight like that, competitive fight. You don't want to have a fighter fighting a washed-up fighter. You want to fight both of them in their prime. And that's what makes boxing interesting.
And speaking of that fight, how do you see it playing out?
It's going to be a good one. I mean, it's going to be that's a toss-up, because both of those guys, they're both on top of their game. They both know their stuff. I mean, whoever you're going to bet on, you're a winner.
Well, who should I bet on?
I don't know. Bet on the referee. He probably going to be the winner. It's going to be a good fight. I mean, Terrence Crawford has a lot. I mean, when Earl Spence got into a car accident, I felt like maybe that hurt him a little bit because of his injuries. I think maybe he'll never be the same. But I think when he came back and beat Sean Porter, he still had a spark of the old flash, So, I mean, he still got a lot for him. But Terrence Crawford is one of the better ones out there, clean cut, no problems. He's always been on top of his game. I kind of give Terrence Crawford a little edge, because of the style and because of the experience. I mean, they're both, it's going to be a tough fight. It's not going to be easy for either one, I can tell you that right now. Whoever wins, it's going to be a tough fight.
And since you mentioned Sean Porter and Earl Spence, that reminds me of when you were here in Toronto, that fight was taking place. And
right.
I asked you about that fight, and you said that it was going to be a tough fight for Spence. And I didn't believe you, but it sure was a tough fight for Spence.
Yeah. And it was, we were up in Toronto. I had the honor of meeting the great George Chuvalo. And there was an amateur boxing program there. We had a lot of good times there. It was a great memory going to Toronto for the first time for me. I remember when I went up to Vancouver, it was my second world championship fight. Was Michael Spinks against Oscar Rio de Janeiro. And that was my second world championship fight. So, but my first time I went to Canada was in Montreal when I was a teenager, and I represented the United States. That's where I had my first loss as an amateur. My 31st fight, I lost by a decision. There was 5 judges that night. 3 gave it to the French Canadian. If he's watching, Marcel Belfait, I want a rematch. 2 judges gave it to me, and 3 gave it to him. And so I've been looking for that guy since 1961. If you're still alive, Marcel Belfait, you know where I'm at, Las Vegas. We can make the match and make it happen again. I'm still in shape. I weigh a couple of pounds more than I did back then. That's all.
Now let's talk about that Porter and Spence fight, because once again I was surprised when you said that Porter was going to give Spence a tough fight, and he sure did.
Yeah.
So, what were your thoughts? What were your thoughts after that fight?
Well, that's why I say that Errol Spence. That's why I leaning a little bit towards Crawford because of that fight. That's one fight when he fought Sean Porter, and Terence Crawford has a lot more than Sean Porter. At the same time, I mean, you look at Sean Porter. I mean, he was one of the tough ones out there, one of my favorites out there. But when they come up to step up to the plate, he just didn't have it against, the top fighters, and he ended up retiring when he fought. Was it Errol Spence?
It was
No.
Crawford.
I'm sorry, it was Crawford. He lost to Crawford. I mean, Errol Spence, and Sean Porter was a tough fight, and I think that Crawford. I gotta go the edge with Crawford for this one.
I gotta ask you what I've been thinking about in regards to Ugas giving Spence a scare by taking that mouthpiece out of him. Do you think that's going to be a problem if Crawford gets Spence in that type of situation?
Well, in boxing, you have to protect yourself. I mean, anything goes. The referee has to be on top of his game. The referee has to stay on top of everything. What are the rules with the WBC and the IBF, WBO, WBA? They have rules, unified rules, and they're going to apply unified rules. Anything with mouthpieces are concerned, if the mouthpiece is large from a punch, a referee has to wait for it. It's a low in the action to have it replaced. However, I remember when Diego Corrales fought Castillo, Diego Corrales got knocked down and he spit out the mouthpiece, and Tony Weeks, the referee, stopped the action and had the mouthpiece replaced from Castillo. He deducted a point for spitting out the mouthpiece intentionally, but what happened was that Corrales recuperated a little bit. He got a second win back, and he got Castillo up against the ropes, and Tony Weeks did a great stoppage in stopping the fight, so Castillo won't take unnecessary punishment. But I mean, when it comes to the mouthpiece situation, the referee, if he's at the top of his game, you know what he's doing. Sometimes I will let if there's not a low in the action. When you get knocked down and the mouthpiece goes out, there's not a low in the action there. I mean, that's when the guy's hurt. And that's when the referee should say, you know what? The low in the action is not really occurring right there. I mean, that's if you take the timeout to replace a mouthpiece, that's when the fighter can recuperate. So you're not really helping the fighter who scored the hard blow. You're helping the fighter who's in trouble. And the referee got to be neutral at all times, and maybe just let the fighter fight without the mouthpiece until there is a low in action.
But what happens? Let's say if the mouthpiece flies out early in that round, and the fight continues.
Okay, and the referee has to just wait for this. So low in the action, nobody's hurt, nobody's taking a punch. You see that everything is moving around. Nothing's happening. It's called time. That's a good time to stop it and get the mouthpiece replaced, because nobody's hurt right there. But if the guy's got the fighter hurt and the mouthpiece gets dislodged, now he got him hurt. He's after him. If you go in and call time, you're taking the momentum away from the fighter. You see, and that's when I say, well, if the referee would have not stopped that, if he would have let the fight continue, he would have won by knockout. But the referee, gave him a timeout. So those couple of seconds whether it's 10, 15 seconds, 20 seconds to replace the mouthpiece, that's enough for you to shake it off a little bit and to then get back in the action. And, either hold. You're taught to hold if you're in trouble. That's part of the training game, But however, in boxing, a lot of trainers train the fighters only, to go ahead and what to do to hurt the opponent, But they're never taught in training what to do if you're in trouble. I mean, we know, okay, in most cases, okay, you hold on, for a little bit, but the referee tells you to break. But sometimes you got to cut, and maybe instead of you fight right-handed, maybe you want to go left-handed, but now your cut is away from the punches, you see? So you got to learn how to adjust according to the damage that's being done to you. So a lot of trainers don't train fighters what to do when you're in trouble. And sometimes you have to take a knee on your own, and you got to learn. You got to do that also while you're in training. So if I get hurt with a punch, I should take a knee on my own and don't wait till I get knocked down by the fighter. Let me take a knee on my own. Let the referee give me mandatory 8 count. At least sometimes they can shake it off, But if you stay in there, you're hurt, and you stay in there, you're not 100%. You're in a concussive episode. You're there, but you're not really there. But if you're thinking smart, take a knee on your own, recuperate a little bit, and then you get back up. And you may, I saw that happen one time to a fighter. It's a lightweight, I forgot his name, but he fought a Russian fighter. I can't remember the name of the fighter, but the kid took a knee on his own, and by him taking a knee, he recuperated, and he came back and ended up winning the fight, winning the title, So this is what you got to do in boxing. But trainers got to train you also to what do you do when you're in trouble, Can you take a knee on your own? Take a knee, buddy. Take a knee. I'd rather get an 8 count than to be stopped altogether.
I think some fighters don't take that knee because they find that it's a sign of weakness.
Well, forget about you gotta let your ego go. You don't want to be stopped. When you're in there, you want to say, I gotta let my ego. I don't care if I got to take an 8 count. I don't take the 8 count and to be knocked out. That's not thinking smart. Thinking really smart. I mean that you're thinking. You're not going in there crazy. You're hurt. What do you do next? You get hurt, you're in serious trouble, take a knee. That's the best thing to do. But you have to let your ego go,
And speaking of mouthpiece, I got to ask you, what if a fighter keeps spitting out their mouthpiece like 3-4 times in a round? Can they get disqualified?
If the referee feels he's spitting out the mouthpiece intentionally, you make point deduction. You tell them, all right, you spitting out the mouthpiece intentionally, keep on with that, I'm gonna take a point, or you may be disqualified. You continue. Some fighters are looking for a way out, and they say, they'd rather be disqualified than to be knocked out. And they say, the referee disqualified me. He didn't have to. They want to put the blame on the referee, But the referee has to do his duty. That's why you tell him in the dressing room, when you get in the pre-fight instructions in the dressing room, you talk about the intentional headbutt, talk about low blows, get the punches up. If you spit out your mouthpiece intentionally, I give you some warning. But if I think you're doing it too much repeatedly, there'll be point deduction, or you may be disqualified. You understand that? And they say, yes, sir. Okay. You understand? I'll do it. If I have to, I'll do it. They know you're not playing it around. You gotta be firm. Like that's why I say I'm fair, but I'm firm. If you don't do much, you do what you're supposed to, then I'm gonna be firm on you. And not being fair with the fighters on both sides.
And since I touched on Ugas and Spence, what do you think is going to happen if Crawford catches Spence in that situation? Because Crawford is a good finisher. Do you think Crawford can finish off Spence?
It can happen either way because they both have experience. They're both good finishers. I mean, Crawford is known to finish off a fighter real good, but then again, they're both undefeated. You're not going in there with a palooka. You're going in there with somebody who's on top of his game. They're both good fighters. It's going to be a hell of a fight, and they'll be surprised that whichever way ends up. It was like the fights that I did with what's the name, Evander Holyfield and Riddick Bowe. The first one was great, and the second one was great, and the third. I did the first and the third. But also remember when Manny Pacquiao fought Juan Marquez. I did the first fight. Marquez went down 3 times in the first round. I let it continue. Back in the old days, it was automatic. You lose by technical knockout. You get knocked out in the same round, 3 times in the same round. But now it's up to the discretion of the referee. But a referee there's got to be thinking at all time, making sure that fighters don't take unnecessary punishment, because that's our job first and foremost. You got to treat those fighters like they're your children. You know, you don't want them to take too much. You know, you want them to go home, and when they retire from boxing, that they're sound, that they're walking normally, not walking on their heels, you know. A lot of fighters, when they retire from boxing, you know, they don't have all their marbles. And you say, what happened to that guy? And people say, all the fights he was in, those wars he was in, they should have stopped the fight sooner than later. And that's why I said, fighters, referees, you got to, I'd rather stop a punch too soon than a punch too late.
Speaking of Marquez and Pacquiao, I'm just glad that Marquez was able to continue to fight, because, you know, we've seen in some fights, the fights get stopped, and then a fighter like Marquez doesn't have the opportunity to show the heart of a champion.
Right. Well, if I were, like I said, like Bob Arum said it best when they fought the 4th time. Bob Arum said, if the referee Joe Cortez would have stopped the first fight, fight 2, 3, and 4 would have never happened. You know, they both made a couple extra $100 million. You know, thanks to Joe Cortez not stopping the first fight. If I would have stopped that first fight, that would have been history for Juan Marquez. Today he's sharp. You know, he got some money, and he got a good family. He's living in Orlando, Florida now. You know, and he seems to be pretty sharp. You know, he was in some big wars against Manny Pacquiao, but they were great fights. You know, and you don't want to see fighters take a little too much punishment. But like I said before, you want to see when they retire from boxing that they're walking on their heels. They're not walking on their heels, that they're walking straight, normal, and you can say, you know, I can really appreciate that fight. Like I was talking to the other day, I had on my show, on the Joe Cortez show, on the YouTube channel and Facebook, I had Pinklin Thomas, 2-time heavyweight champion. I mean, he was really sharp. He was talking to me about when he won his first championship fight against Tim Witherspoon, then when he won the second heavyweight title fight against Mike Weaver. You know, the guy still got it up here. You know, he's so sharp. You know, he talked very well. I'm glad to see that. You know, and I had Evander Holyfield on my show a couple of months ago. He spoke very well. I'm very impressed. And that's what I want to see fighters when they retire. Look at Mike Tyson. He speaks very well, handles himself pretty good. You know, he didn't get hit that much. He got stopped in a couple of fights, but overall, you know, he didn't take that much punishment for him to be walking on his heels today. He's smart. He knows what he's doing. And a lot of these fighters, I want to see these fighters invest their money a little bit more. Some fighters, they make all this money, being that they're not educated enough. They should find a financial advisor to guide them in the right direction so they can have something that they can fall back on when they retire from boxing. Because boxing only lasts, you got a short window, maybe 10 years. I said 10, 15 years. That's the average for fighters' lifespan in boxing. So you don't want to be there too long, but with the period that you're on, they make some money and think about for rainy days in the future.
Joe Cortez, I'm going to ask you about Jaron Boots Ennis, a guy that wants to fight the winner of Spence and Crawford. Your thoughts on Jaron Boots Ennis?
I want to see him get a little bit out there, get a little more name recognition, because he's not too known. So there's not going to be a draw at the gate. You got to gain a reputation with more fights, and people know who the guy is. You want to become a household name in order to generate more money. You want to be somebody that just fight. They're going to say, that's another guy. Nobody knows who he is. But then again, those guys can surprise the whole world. Just like when the heavyweight Anthony Ruiz surprised Joshua, you know, and knocked him out, became heavyweight champion of the world. Nobody really knew Anthony Ruiz. Some people in the boxing game knew, but when they saw him in that ring, they saw him so big and so out of shape, they say, no way in the world. But sometimes boxing is full of surprises. You never know what can happen.
You know, we got to give some of these guys the opportunity, right? So.
Yeah, they got to get an opportunity, but I like to see these guys get a little bit more polished up, a little bit more experience. Because you're talking about fighting the best in the world, you know. You're not fighting a number 7 or 8 contender. You're fighting the best. So you're going to make sure that you're ready for these guys.
Well, hopefully we'll see this kid fight one of these guys in the future, in the near future.
Yeah.
And see what happens. But hey, Joe Cortez, I appreciate your time once again. I can't wait for this fight. This is a pay-per-view fight. This is a super fight, like back in the days, right?
Yeah. It's going to be one of the better ones out there. The fans going to get their money's worth, so make sure you watch it, and it'll be a lot to talk about. We'll talk more about it after the fight, all right?
We will, and I'm going to look at those interviews you just had.
Okay, buddy. Well, you take care. Give my regards to all the fans out there. Remember, guys, protect yourselves at all times. Keep your guards up at all times. And remember, I'm fair, but I'm firm. Touch them up, guys.
Thank you, Joe Cortez.
Thank you, buddy. Take care.